Mora conducts physician-led support groups, helping people live healthier, happier lives, free from chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. And on our podcast, Health and Mora with Dr. Lori Marbus, we bring to you nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests to empower and inspire you with their knowledge and stories of plant-based lifestyle so that you can be your healthiest self.
Well, let's get started and welcome to the podcast. Oh my goodness, this is my second interview with one of my favorite people, Miss Elaine LaLanne, the wife of the infamous Jack LaLanne. I should say famous, Jack LaLanne. How are you, ma'am?
Oh, I am fine. And Lori, you're one of my dear friends, and I really appreciate you. And I just saw her with ACLM,
Yes, we met in
American
person.
College of Lifestyle Medicine.
Yes.
Explain lifestyle. Explain it. What lifestyle?
Sure. So, well, we met there because you were accepted an award for Jack on stage, and I was so excited to sit there and what you had a crowd of 2,000 rolling, by the way. They loved you. Oh my goodness. So what lifestyle medicine is, it's a practice of medicine that really focuses on the foundation of everything, honestly, that Jack espoused, right? So it's eating a healthy, plant-centric diet. Your exercise is key to movement, moving your body throughout your life, which we'll definitely get into with you. Really important restorative sleep. We talk about stress reduction, social connection, community, and avoiding like alcohol and tobacco. And really, I feel like it could be, he probably was the father of lifestyle medicine before he started.
When they asked me I received this award. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award from ACLM, and it was for 2021. Jack posthumously and myself, and that was 2020 for 2021, and for 2022. Dr. Ken Cooper. So I was able to see Dr. Ken Cooper, a good friend, and his wife Millie at the event. So it was a fun event, and how enthusiastic these people are. It's just, and all doctors, and they're all charged up and they're all in good shape.
No, yes. Having Dr. Ken Cooper and you on the same stage was a highlight, such a highlight of my life. So
it was beautiful.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, let's get into, just for those of you who are less familiar with the LaLanne story, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and Jack and how you met?
Well, I think we went through this
we did, but just a short abridged version.
I was on television in San Francisco. I started in 1948 with a commercial up in the transfer. You see, in those days, my first commercial was for butternut bread, and I'd come in and I'd open the bread and I go, really good, or something like that. And that was a commercial we'd drive up every night at 6 o'clock, because that's when television went on the air from the transmitters. So that's how I started television. And I was working out of a modeling agency, and I'm too short for runway. So I played housewives, and I did a lot of trade shows, and I sold everything from blow torches to hospital beds. They'd hire a girl to come in and their booth, and then you talk about it. So I was demonstrating 45 records, not at the trade shows, but at Emporium department store, just coming out. 33 1/3 was coming out from Columbia, and 45 records were coming out from from RCA. And I was at the aquarium and demonstrating and how it's great kit for kids and everything. And so some lady came up to me and says, "Can I get Bing Crosby?" And I said, "No, but you can get Perry Como, and he sounds just like him." And then pretty soon, Les Beloy, he was very famous in San Francisco, disc jockey, and he sauntered over to me and he said, "You know, if I'm starting a television show, it's going to be an hour and a half on ABC, and we're going to go on the air at 4:30. That's because we were going on the air. We're going on the air at 4:30. Now this was about 1950, and we're going to have an ABC orchestra from a radio, and so I'd like to have you be on the show with me, and also book the show, hour and a half." And so he asked me if I could do it, and I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And I said, yes. Yeah. He says, "Okay, call Bill Blake over at the Orpheum and call this one and call that one, call the Kernan Gary and find out who's coming." And then, then, because in those days, a lot of movie stars would come to the movie theaters and talk about their film. Yeah. And so therefore you could get a lot of movie stars, and you could get the people who were coming to the Kernan Gary. The Kernan Gary is the performance, with the live performances. So that's what I did. And we transmitted from the Sutro Mountain, which is the Sutro Peaks up on San Francisco. And so it was an old mansion called Sutro Mansion, and they put me in the first phone I had was in the ballroom, sitting on the floor because there was no place to sit, calling people to come on this show. And then finally they put me up in an unfinished place on a third floor there, and I got a phone up there. And then I would come down at 4, just before 4:30 to make sure everything was good. And I would, then we'd do the show, and the people would show up, but they get lost coming up to Sutro because it's a lot, Twin Peaks in San Francisco. And so a lot of times when people didn't show up, anybody that was around, I said, "Come on, you're the next interview." So that's that. And then I got this call from Oakland, and said that we got this guy who could do push-ups for your whole show. And I, "Oh, that was great." So that was Jack LaLanne. And then he started his show in 1951, and 3 years, he used to come over and say, and I was smoking cigarettes and eating beer claws and all that stuff. And he'd come over my desk and he said, "You should be eating apples and bananas and oranges." I didn't like it. I wouldn't tell you this. And I said, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah." But we brought this guy over with a very big corporation out to here, way out to, he had a great big belly. He said, "I'm going to take 30 pounds off that man in 30 days. And he did. And this guy, he did everything Jack told him to do. And he's losing weight, and his name was Bill Mayhood. And isn't that funny? I can remember that name. Yeah. And so and I looked and I said, then Jack brought over pictures of lungs, pink lungs, black lungs, holy lungs. Lungs with holes in them. And I thought, oh my, he'd say, "Now this is what you're supposed to look like. This is, if you smoke, this is your lungs get black. And if you smoke too much, this is what happens. You get holes in your lungs, you can't breathe." That scared the heck out of me. And so I quit smoking like that. And I had the hoots and jingles for a couple of days, but I went through it. And I'm telling you, the greens were greener, the blues were bluer, and I started broiling everything I used to fry. And that's how I got started. And that's how I met Jack. Now, you probably want to know, well, where's the romance department?
I do have one quick, I just want to clarify for people. So on that very first show that he came, he did push-ups for full 90 minutes, correct?
Yes, he did push-ups for the whole 90 minutes, and he didn't say anything, didn't do anything. He just did the push-ups, and then we just panned over to him, and that was it. You know.
Oh my gosh.
So,
okay, and your age right now is 97?
97. Yeah,
Oh,
that was
okay.
I'm gonna
Amazing.
let's see, Sunday. Today's Friday, the 17th, and I that's when we're doing the show. I don't know when you're gonna show this, but
Yes.
just in case you want to know.
Yes.
I'm March 19th. I'm going to be
98.
yeah, 97.
Oh, you'll be 97 on Sunday. Well, happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Gosh.
Thank you.
If all we could all
Yeah.
be as sharp as you are and active. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so let's get back to the romance.
Oh yeah, well now the romance didn't start till 3 years later.
You had to clean up your act first.
He used to ask me out, but I wasn't interested. In those days they made big guys with big muscles, and they made them look like they didn't have anything up here. So one day he used to ask me out from time to time and to have dinner. So one day I said, yeah, okay. And so because I got off the show at 6 o'clock, and so that's dinner time. So we went to dinner with his friends, and we went out, and we started talking. We went over to the Huntington Hotel, and we started talking and with the friends with this restaurant, and so we started just chatting, and I said, my gosh, he's smart, and they had a company party, at KGO. He did dance with me, he did jitterbug with me for a little bit at this company party, so I knew he was a good dancer. But then now he comes over and we talk, he's, gosh, he's smart. He's got a mind. And then we had to wait to get into this restaurant, and so we went over to the piano bar, and they said, Jack, sing a song. So he was a great singer. He really. So he sang, because you're mine, da 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 dee, da 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 da, and I thought, oh my God. He sings too. And then I don't know, we started dating after that, and it just, and 6 years later we were married.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. So brains, bronze, singing, dancing. What more could you ask for? Well, this is fabulous. So that's the history. But now let's get into your new book. Let me put that in here. It's called Pride and Discipline.
Yes,
I got a lovely, you wrote to me inside of it. So thank you so much. I just love that so much. Yes.
Yeah, we got an exciting thing, because we're now on Audible, and so and we are 5 stars. We got 5 stars. And they said, love this book, The Godfather of Fitness, and it goes on and on how great it was, and how he's motivating, and it is motivating. I mean,
yeah.
when we were doing this book with Greg Justice, that's my co-author, and Crystal Babb, his gal that was working with him. I'm telling you, it was inspiring to me every day, every time I do one of his writing. I mean, you know, we'd say, well, let's put this here, let's put that writing there, because I want this book to flow. You know, in other words, I start out, I tell lots of stories in my introduction, you know, and then then I go from there, and then we talk about Jack's first show. He said, oh, I have to tell you, the first time he ever did this commercial on television on the bread, he had this piece of bread, this loaf of bread. So he just knew on television, and he just takes this bread and he says, it's all white. And he goes like this and rolls it all up in a bowl and bang, hits it on the floor and hits in their stomach. Well, he had the wrapper this showing whose bread it was. And they said, get that guy off the air, you know.
So he's saying white
but anyway, it all
good.
resolved, and so he never did that again. But he was trying to show you. He says, "When that hits your stomach, that takes all the energy out of you." And then he goes on and on about what it does to you, the white bread, because he was a great one for, you know, the whole grains breads.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's tell me a little bit about what was the inspiration for the book and what it is. So we're telling stories, like, what is this all about?
You know, Greg Justice and I were inducted into the Fitness Hall of Fame together, and then we became friends, and later on, and through IDEA and a lot of the, you know, fitness venues. So he said to me, you know, Jack was great on pride. He read a lot about Jack, about how strong he was about pride and discipline. And he said, you know, you should write a book about pride and discipline. And that's what Jack talks about all the time. And so he said, and you should put in some of his writings. So I started digging out all his writings. So we named the book Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne, in his own words, and those he's inspired. So we have a lot of people that he's inspired in there. So it goes from the beginning. Lou Ferrigno does the introduction, and he tells the story about how he met Jack and how Jack picked up this check. And I'm just, it's just an exciting book. And every time I look at it or read it, I didn't want to make it boring either. I wanted to make those writings short. So these writings are very short. Now, some of the chapters, you know, I didn't call them chapters, I called them segments. Now, the first one is from training in his gym to training on television. That tells a little bit about Jack. And then I have a whole thing on here. You see it in the book?
Yeah, I see. So like section 1, first feats and strengths and awards, feats of strength, which it's just every time I read about anything he does, it still astounds me. And the photo on the front of it, we have Jack's pictures hanging in our hallway that you sent me last time. I still have all those and hanging them up. But section 2, mindset, attitude, visualization, and success, which is so important. Section 3, exercise and nutrition. Section 4 is more nutrition. Section 5, humor, faith, and successful aging. Definitely you are the beacons for that. Section 6, family scrapbook memoirs. Section 7.
And there's a section, is it 6 and 7 or 7 about our family? We got a whole thing on our family. They all write something.
I love that. Jack. And then section 8 is all the timelines. So you can actually go through his life, and that was lovely. I think it was a wonderful way.
Oh, and his humor. How about the humor?
Yep, section 5. Yes. So maybe we could talk a little bit about some of his, you know, section 1, kind of the feats of strength. What stands out in your mind as some of your favorite crazy things that he did? There's so many, but what is some of your favorite ones?
Favorite what?
His feats of strength. Some of the crazy things he's done.
Well, he did, 1,000 push-ups in 23 minutes on the Art Baker's Do That Sport show. That's after we did them on our show, and that was on ABC in the early days. The some of his swims, I think the most, I don't have really favorites of anything, but the one that is the outstanding one is the Alcatraz one, because everybody's heard about how dangerous Alcatraz is. And there's actually 5 to 7 tides. I can't remember if it's 5 to 7 around and the tides go around like this. And then they go out, like out to sea. I don't know what it is. And so you have to do the swims. He swam from Alcatraz to the mainland, handcuffed. And that was when he was 41. And then when he was 40, he swam underneath the Golden Gate Bridge underwater. But those, the Alcatraz ones and the San Francisco ones seem to be the ones that stand out. But his 70th birthday ones, was in Long Beach, but I'll tell you about that. But his hands were handcuffed, so he had to swim like this. Then when he was 60, he announced that he was going to swim from Alcatraz to the mainland, handcuffed, but he was going to be shackled on his feet and towing a 1,000-pound boat. I said, you gotta be nuts, And so anyway, he practiced, and in the book, I think there's a picture of him, me pouring ice on him in the bathtub. And in order for him to get used to the cold water to do the swim up there, he had to get used to cold water. So he said, go down on La Brea in Los Angeles and get me 50 pounds of ice. So I would go periodically go down and get this ice and pour over him, and then he'd sit there for an hour in the bathtub with his swimming suit on and the water in the bathtub and the ice making him cold.
Wow.
I thought that was nuts. But anyway, yes, that was and then he goes up there and he does this was for the 60th birthday swim. And so he goes up there and he practices. Then he gets caught one time in the seaweed. He could hardly get out, and practicing in the bay there. But he also wrote down. He'd go out to dinner that night. The first day he started, he'd write down how he felt that day. And it's in the book. The actual little piece of paper is in the it's in the book that he wrote on. There's a whole bunch there's like 6 little pieces of paper that he wrote on. And then he would I won't go through them all, but one of them had said, he got numb, and then the day I felt a little better the next day. And then the last one, he said, I love cold water. I love cold water. I love cold water. See, Jack was a great one to visualize, and he was talking himself into loving cold water.
Yep. It's positive self-talk. Speak it, it will be true. Oh my gosh. And then there was another one I saw that he did 100, and the Navy actually watched him, but 100 handstand push-up, 100
push-ups, 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 chins.
Oh yes, that was in an
Is that
hour.
the one you're talking about?
There's that one, but then also when he was in the Navy, he did 100 handstand
push-ups
in like 5 minutes.
And that was 1940. Yeah, I know, 5 or 45, and that's when he was in the Navy.
Oh,
during World War II, and he was stationed, and that's what he did these handstands, and they took a picture of him, and so
Yep.
I still have that. That's in the book too.
Yep, it is. I saw that. It
Yeah, he
just
was over
blows
at
my mind.
Guadalcanal and Soup. He talks about that too, and he doesn't talk about it. I tell the story of it because Jack was not one to toot his own horn. He didn't like to talk about himself. He would you ask him, he would answer, but he didn't just come out and say, I did this and I did that. I mean, he wasn't that kind of guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So feats of strength, bar none. And then so visualization, success, I feel like that. So what would you say would be some of the most powerful, potent things he did to really help with his mindset and attitude? Like, what do you feel were some of the things he did or worked with clients that helped them?
Well, Jack, I think, visualized everything he did. He believed in visualization. He believed in seeing it. He'd always say to me, before he went up to San Francisco, he says, I can see myself coming out of the water. I can see myself coming out of the water. And I know what he said a lot of times to me before he left. Before he left, he said, I see myself coming out of the water. And he and there is a picture of him coming out of the water in the book. And he's, I mean, it was something to look at.
Wow. So, there was another one that I was reading about, and he was being pulled by a helicopter water skiing or something.
Oh,
and you turned him halfway back and he was disappointed. It was only
I've got so many stories about the that's not in the this story is not in the book, but I'm going to tell it to you. He decided that we took up water skiing, and then he gets all these big ideas. First of all, he buys, let me tell you, there's two stories. Do you have time?
Oh, of course I have time.
Okay. First of all, he buys this boat. Okay. He gets twin engines on this little boat, and we're going to water ski with this boat. So he brings it, he gets a nice carrier for the boat and everything. And he said, we turn it around and put it in the water. He says, get in. And so he said, let's test it out. So I get in the boat. He said, okay. And he hooks the boat and from the, the car, or from the boat launcher or whatever. And so then he says, okay, start the motor. I said, doesn't it have gears? And he says, no, start the motor. He goes, the boat goes up the ramp and hits his Cadillac, dents the Cadillac, ruins the two brand new engines. But then, then he decides that he's going to ski behind a helicopter. So he got this helicopter, a friend, and he's going to. So we practice with the so I'm all dressed up in my outfit. I think that's in the book, to go in, in the helicopter. And so I go in the helicopter with the Rick, the pilot. He's down, we put him in the water. So now he's skiing behind the helicopter, and he's going to ski. Now he says, I want to ski to the Farallon Islands with on one ski. And he's got all these ideas. I mean, I have to go through all this stuff. And anyway, that was one of them. But it's we skied halfway. Oh, Rick says to me, we're going to the Farallon Islands. It's 26 miles. So, but the winds came up so strong.
Wow.
So it's 30 miles to the Farallons and it's 30 miles back. Okay, we got halfway and Rick says, we could go to the islands, but we're not gonna get back because of the fuel. It's eating up too much fuel.
Gotcha.
So I had to make a quick decision. and the press is waiting for it. And we just said, I made a decision, turn around and go back. So that's the only one he pooped out on us.
So you went like 30 some odd miles instead of the full 60.
Yeah, we got there, but we turned back, and so but he's got, there's so many things.
Oh my goodness. Oh my, water skiing behind a helicopter.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he has no fear. Did he have any fears of anything?
What?
Did he have any fears?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't, we just, and you know what, we didn't, he was not negative. He couldn't have a negative thought in his brain.
Oh, wow.
He just, I don't know whether it goes back to his childhood, probably did. And he just decided he was never going to be negative. And so anything that was negative, he'd say to me, that's negative. Don't talk. We don't talk negative here. We don't. So we laugh through life.
I love it. Yeah, that's.
I mean,
so
anything
important.
that, anything we'd have dissension over, which we didn't have too much. But one time when we were building our house in the Central Coast, we were building this island in the middle of the kitchen, and so we had where to put it, and so we had a little disagreement on where this is gonna go. I mean, but before this was ended, we were both just laughing so hard. I don't know, it's such a stupid thing. So many arguments in people's lives are just so silly, and they can't even remember what they were, when they look back.
Yeah.
So it's not, so if you can make a little funny out of it, out of the dissension or the disagreement, I mean, so you agree, so I always try to find a happy medium, there's always a happy medium, because name me anything in this life that's one-sided. I have been trying to think of boxes, and I mean, anything, hands, one side, this side, a piece of paper, one side. There's no one side to anything. So there's always this side and that side, and the most important thing is trying to bring them together here, and to come some kind of an agreement. That's the way you get along in life. That's my philosophy.
I think that's, if everything else in the podcast is going to be wonderful, but that is so very important. Absolutely. Because we have to understand that someone else is going to have their side of the story that's just as important as yours. And
but there's a lot of times people get, look at what Jack said or did or whatever. I mean, there's a story that goes out there. Oh, Jack pulled those boats with his teeth, and that's how out there people still say, oh, I remember he pulled them with his teeth, but he did. He had a strap around his waist, and they had and everything was hooked here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and that's when he was shackled.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm just so impressed by his life, and so early when, so many people were actually telling him that he wouldn't be successful, or that weightlifting wasn't healthy for people. I mean, it's just phenomenal that someone would go against the grain of culture like that.
Well, in the book, Clint Eastwood, we have people, saying there's people like Clint Eastwood and Denise Austin, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Keith Morrison. We've got people, fans, just people that knew Jack, and Tony Danza, it just like Lou Ferrigno tells his story. These people tell their story, and he had to go through so much well, today they would call it bullying, I guess. But in those days, he was made fun of and called a crackpot and a nut and a charlatan for charging money. There's some nut in Oakland, California, charging money to exercise. And that's what it was like. That was Clint Eastwood tells the story, kind of what it was like in those days, well, how people ate and all that. But he had to go through an awful lot, and he was never. I mean, he was challenged all the time, but he just kept forging ahead, because he believed so strongly in this. And now what he was preaching then, it was poo-pooed. Everybody is teaching, everyone. And nutrition. See, he was a great one on eating foods in a natural state as much as possible. Everything he did was simple, eat right and you can't go wrong, stuff like that. Just that's why I wanted to keep these paragraphs short, his writing short. Overcoming obstacles, the things he had to overcome, I had to overcome.
What were some of the obstacles that you overcame? Tell me.
Well, I don't know if it's in this book, but it's in other books. I was hit by a bus, and I was sitting at the Hollywood Bowl. Jack was this was in the 73, and I was sitting at the Hollywood Bowl, and I got hit. Bus lost its brakes and hit me behind, and the people were coming into the Hollywood Bowl, and I got shot right into the policeman. He got hurt, but just me. But it broke my gas tank, and just before that, you met John earlier. John was young, and he was playing hockey, and he was practicing, and I'd take him to hockey practice, and I was sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden I go, whoa. But before that, in those days, you didn't wear many seat belts, where you had seat belts. So he hooked a seat belt on me, and he said, "Mom, put that seat belt on." And he hooked it on so tight, and I went like this, otherwise I'd gone through the windshield, and then the bus bounced off the back of the car, and I was in this position, and it wrenched my neck and right side. And for 14 years, I was in really a lot of pain, but I just went through it. I took acupuncture. I did everything. I mean, I did everything that you could do. So today I can move my neck. I mean, I just pursued, and it was an obstacle that some people would give up, but I didn't give up. I never would give up.
What do you think it was, the one thing, or was there anything in particular that really helped with your discomfort or your pain? Was there anything there?
Oh, anything in particular? Exercise, stretching. I mean, slowly. You don't jerk. That's one thing that Jack always used to say: do not jerk anything. When you lift your leg, you lift your leg. You don't jerk your leg back. You don't jerk your neck this way or that way. You don't. If you're going to roll your neck, either way, you do it slowly. And there's, I took acupuncture and acupuncture and chiropractic. Of course, Jack was a chiropractor.
Yes, you had a chiropractor at home.
So he was a great help. I'd always say, "Give me a 3-pointer, Jack."
Oh my goodness.
But see, he never practiced chiropractic because he was, in those days, chiropractic and the physicians were not working together, And so and he had a lot of physicians in his gym that were, a lot of doctors in his gym that were working out. And so he never, he never did that. So he just sort of kept it quiet till everything. And then he finally let everybody know he was his.
That's what his training was.
And they have, there's a, I think it's a 40 years or 30 years. It's the chiropractic thing is, and they're not as how long he's. This was his 45 years in chiropractic or something, and I have that, but his stuff was all his memorabilia was taken out of his mother's house when one time when they had somebody stole it, you know.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where this original one is, but
wow,
we have that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were kind of skimming around nutrition. Can you tell me a little bit about Jack's nutrition and some of the things that he invented that you showed me before we started recording?
Well, as he, you know, when we first started on television, he had a sponsor called Kiva Wets, and they and it was a little appetizer pizza, you know, and it was pretty good. This guy was in his 90s, and in fact, as I used to take that to quit smoking, I feel like I want a cigarette, I would chomp on one of those, and they were kind of like a little protein thing. And so Jack decided, well, I'm not on TV anymore. So he's on TV, but he doesn't have that sponsor anymore. So he had to sponsor himself in order to keep him on TV. So he came out with this. He believed in protein so much. He says, your skin is protein. Your protein is so important in your. So he had this is his very first protein. This came out in 1950. He started on 51. This is probably 52.
Wow.
1952.
Wow.
And then he got a better label. There he is in his suit and everything. And then this one, they got a little more daring. And then
is that you on there with him?
No, that's not me on there. That was another gal that he had. I don't know if I started to date him at that time or not. It was, this gal is just a model, you know, and and then I was, you know, on television, and he would,
wow.
And he just came when he came out with this. Now this, then he protein. He just, so now he thinks he ought to have it. Now this, I was with him. I can tell the story of this. Now I'm working with Jack. He always wanted me to go work with him because the guy I was working with, Les Malloy, bought a radio station, and then he fired everybody, and then we had to restart the whole thing all over again because he went country and western, and so I went with Les for a couple of years, and then Jack wanted me to work with him. So Jack, we had a health food store. I'm now working with Jack. We have a little store in Oakland, California, and down below, up above, is a balcony, and that's where I did all my orders and everything. And in the back, we had a little place where we kept things that we're selling on TV. And so then we decided to put a little health food store down in this area when you walk in. It's just a little one. And we're fooling around one day and with the blender, because we were putting in with the health food store, we were putting in non-fat milk solids, wheat germ flakes, and a lot of that, you know. And so we decided that I said, this is instant breakfast. He said, this is really an instant breakfast. He said, let's go over to my friend here in Oakland, and he's a biochemist, and we'll have him make us some. So this is what he made us. He made us instant breakfast. And that's the very first one that came out in the early 50s. I mean, not middle 50s or the late, because it had to be about 50, 56. Wow. And then when we then Carnation would do our instantizing for in 1960. Carnation started to do instantizing because we'd have to put it into blender to blend it up. You didn't have any instant stuff. And so we heard about that, and we sent this over to Carnation to instantize for us, and then they did our instantizing. And then one day the Pure Food and Drug came along and said, oh, you can't say that, because Jack would never come out with a product unless he had a pamphlet, exercise pamphlet, because he believed you have to have, with your nutrition, you have to have exercise. So that's always with him, is exercise is king, nutrition's queen, put them together and you got a kingdom. So that's it. And so that's what we came out with. And then we had to take it off the market because the Pure Food and Drug said that he mentioned this in his pamphlet. And that became a part of the label, and you can't do that. Oh. So it came out with up there, it's called Reduce. So I'm not going to get up there and get
That's okay. That's okay.
But then when he came out with Reduce, we didn't care because we've already been like 6 years, 7 years selling this. And we're in LA, we were selling a lot of it, but he didn't care. He says, well, we'll just come out with Reduce.
Awesome.
And then a couple of years later, 1964, Carnation came out with instant breakfast.
Amazing.
And then one of the guys that helped us, a rack chopper in San Francisco, because we were selling it in the stores, he came to us and he says, I'll give you $25,000 if you give us the rights to instant breakfast. So they went in court. Anybody can use instant breakfast.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
So, there you go. That's a little story.
So nobody cool. Oh, well, now they do. Now they do. So what was a typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Jack? What was his breakfast?
Well, he used to have protein drink in the morning, and then at night he might have, he was a great one for sardines. And when he'd open up the thing and wash all the oil off of it, and then eat the sardines. I mean, that's one of them. There's a lot of things he ate a lot of egg whites, like hard-boiled eggs, and he would take the yolk out and eat the eggs. I said, it's because you're afraid of the yolks. He says they've got 70 calories. So he's got all his calories in his head. So anyway, and then his dinner, he never ate between meals. He didn't eat snacks. He would never eat these snacks. Okay. He just ate tried to eat 10 raw vegetables every night as a salad.
Wow.
And he ate a lot of fish. And earlier in his life, he did eat meat when he was, he's tried everything. He even, one time when he was young, getting started, he heard that the Watusis over in Africa that were in great physical condition and whatnot, and they drank blood or whatever. I don't know whether it was Watusis or what. I'm not sure what tribe it was, but anyway, he'd heard that and he even drank blood from the slaughterhouse until
Oh, wow.
he tried it. He tried it, but
Tried anything,
and
huh?
he got a little clot one time, and that was it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
So it's just.
So
But
really,
he just would not in between meals. And he would not eat any fried food or anything like that.
so no processed foods other
No,
than like his
no.
protein drink, but vegetables, fish.
Lots of vegetables and fish.
Mm,
And
gotcha.
and a potato.
Okay.
Yeah, he says he would never overcook. He was against overcooking.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So
Okay. So potatoes, veggies, fruits.
ate a lot of fruits. Oh my gosh. Yes. And
How
he
about
would have fruit while everybody else was having fruit. He would have an apple or something like that.
how about beans and whole grains? Did he eat a lot of beans?
Whole grains? He believed in whole wheat. Whole wheat. Yeah, all whole grains. Yes.
Okay.
Lentils. Eat a lot of lentils and beans and
Wow.
yeah.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. And
Lots
then
of beans. Lots of beans.
beans are so good for you, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious about when you mentioned the section humor, faith, and successful aging. What would be the tips for successful aging?
Well, I think the first thing you do is see everything is in. He says everything starts between here
Mm.
in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you think you're over the hill, a lot of people thought they were over the hill at 40.
Okay.
Now it's 60 or 50 or whatever. But if you think you're old, you're old. If you whatever you put in here, you are. Whatever you put in your mind, you are.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you think you are, you are.
Right.
Whatever you think you're not, you're not. So it's as simple as that. So if you want to have successful aging, you want to make sure that you keep your body in good running order. You keep your car in good running order. So keep your body in good running order, and keep your and eat right and exercise.
Mm.
So many people I've seen pass away that they just sit and they don't do anything, and then pretty soon they're going over and they're going over and they're going over and they're going over and they're gone, and they don't do anything. I've had friends like that, and I'm so sad. Why don't you just do a little exercise, But they just don't do it. And, then they have to pay the price.
Yep, absolutely. Well, what exercise do you do at 90, almost 97?
Yeah, in 2 days I'll be 97.
What exercise do you do? What is your exercise regimen?
Well, I must admit, at 97, I don't do what I used to do because let's face it.
Fair enough.
I really started. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. The 93, 90. I'm 91 and 92, 93. I start thinking, well, my leg, goes my bone on bone leg. And that's hurting me. And then I don't feel it. I don't have any really problems here inside. It's my eyes and my ears. And I'm very strong. I have a very strong core. And I could do, if I had a little place here, I could do 20 jackknives, putting your feet up, and you touch your toe. I don't touch my toes, but I touch my ankles. So I can do those right now. I don't go down on the floor anymore and do push-ups because it's like with my knee, I can't get up, unless I pull myself up, and that's not, that doesn't look so hot, you know. I tried to show somebody a push-up. So I do my push-ups against, you know, a sink, or I could, you know, if I got up now, I could do push-ups against here. And it's just, it's I just and I stretch. I do a lot of stretching. I mean, and then, you know, a lot of people, you get this little ache and pain in your back, and then you just feel like it's like this. So I just take and I just put one foot in front of the other, or you could climb up a wall, go against a wall, put your hands against the wall, and then just kind of stretch, you know. It's hard to explain right here. Anyway, I wrote this book with the Jamie Brinkus. It's called "If You Want to Live, Move," putting the boom back in boomers. And that was my book before this. And so that's on Amazon too, along with, yeah. Oh,
I have it. There it is.
Yeah.
If you want to live, move,
Well,
putting the boom in boomers.
it has a lot of exercises in it, but it has a lot of mindset too, you know, and it has a lot of. So Jamie Breckers, he's on PBS now, and with he's a little show on that on that PBS.
Oh
But
my goodness.
anyway, but you know, if you just do a little something, he's great for 8 minutes, you know, an 8-minute exercise. If you don't do anything, have you got 8 minutes in the day? And then that's what that book's all about.
Great.
So, eight minutes a day get you on your way.
I love it. I love it. So exercise, movements, and really mindsets. And even if you're struggling with eyesight issues or hearing or whatever, modifying to what you can do.
Well, you just do what you can. And that's what I do. I do what I can. And you know, when you get your eyes go, I have macular degeneration now, and in this eye, and this one is starting, and you know, I am almost 3 years. I'm going to be 100. You know, I can't believe this.
Goodness gracious.
I don't know.
Oh my goodness gracious. I love it. So, you know, this is a fantastic book, and we're also on Amazon, right? So you're on Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon, and the Audible book, you know, we did it with Nightingale Conan, and it's really a great book. It just came out, and it's got 5 stars, and we've been back and forth with Amazon with the hard copy, and that's been on it's been on bestseller lists too. They're back and forth, so
love it.
It's I'm really proud of it. I don't like things to be too long, and I don't want to bore people with with our writings. And Greg Justice is my co-author. Has been a delight to work with, and he's also scriptor publishing. He has a publishing company called Scriptor. So he's our publisher, and he's my co-author, and it's a great team. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had a wonderful team to put together a wonderful book to really testify to life that we all should be leading. So guys, check it out again. We'll have links: Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne, in his own words, in the words of those who inspired, and you and your co-author. This is fantastic. So any final words of you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I just like to share, 2 words: keep moving.
Amen. Let's do it.
And then eat right and you can't go wrong.
Absolutely. And we preach eating right on this show every single time. So
this was my 7th book.
Wow.
And
7 books.
I've got one more thing.
Yes.
Revitalize Your Life. It's a great book by Jack. It's now on Audible too. I forgot to tell you. And
okay.
Yes, it's called. You don't have one.
I don't have Revitalize Your Life.
Yeah,
no,
well, it's out of print, but now it's on Audible, and
okay, I can download it.
It's a great book. It's called Revitalize Your Life. You could probably find it on places that people are selling old books and stuff. It's a great book. It's not very long, but it's easy to read, and it's also motivating, and it's informing.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And because you said that Cooking with Jack, that's the
that Cooking with Jack, that was my son Danny, who met him earlier. He did all the pictures on that book.
Oh, and I love it. Yeah, I love all the fruits and veggies and that photo. That's great.
It's not everything that Jack would, he didn't eat exactly like that, but you can't. Nobody could eat like him.
Jack was a man that is.
Yeah, he was. He didn't expect you to do it, but he did. He said, I said, when I'm 80 years old, Jack, now, and I've done everything, and I didn't have a piece of cake. I didn't have anything. And if I want a piece of cake, I'm going to have a piece of cake if somebody has a birthday. It's not what you do some of the time that counts. It's what you do most of the time that counts. There you go. That's perfect. That's my parting.
That is your final words, and I love it. It doesn't matter what you do some of the time, but what you do most of the time. Amen. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Miss LaLanne. We're gonna Lala. It is. It's fun. Just on a side note, we have some friends that have a little boy who's 4. He's called me Lala for a couple of years, and every time he called me Lala, I think of you. So.
Oh, really?
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe and alert buttons so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content we're working so hard to provide you. We upload a new episode of Health and More with Dr. Lori Marbus every Friday. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start and sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. Because at Mora, we actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives, free of metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website at mora.com, and thanks again for watching.